Let's talk about the point-slope form of a line. Now, just to refresh your memory, we have the slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form looks like this. Y is equal to mx plus b. And if you got to solve for y and everything's linear, then your slope is whatever's before your x. So this m here is our slope. And the number at the end is your y-intercept. Now we have our oddball cases. And remember our two oddball cases, one of them was where we got x is equal to a number, like x is equal to 2. That's going to be a vertical line at 2. And if we have that, m is undefined. And specifically, when we're looking at points with this, we'll have like 2 comma something, and we'll have over here 2 comma something. If you're given 2 points, what you'll find is that your x parts will be the same, but your y parts can be anything. So this might be 2, 3, this might be 2, 4, but the x parts are the same. That'll become important later on. Our other one is if you have y is equal to a number. That's going to be a horizontal line at that number. And if you got that, m is undefined. And your points will be something, comma 3, and something, comma 3. The key part on this is the y will always be 3 no matter what. You can have anything for x. You can have 1, 3, you can have 2, 3. You can have 5, 3, you can have negative 7, 3. Now the point-slope form is a tool that allows us to put something into the slope-intercept form. I'm going to work this slightly different. At the very end, I'll show a point-slope form, just so you can say I showed you one of them. I used to show both the point-slope form and slope-intercept form in class, and I had two students from Japan one semester. And the girl, it was a 3-hour class. The girl, she sat in the back of the room, and she slept the entire time. And she'd wake up come test time, get her 100, and go back to sleep. Never missed a problem, even on final. The guy, he paid attention, and I asked him one night why he was paying attention. A weird thing for an instructor to ask a student. Both of them had taken up through Calc 2, Calc 3 in high school. They could have been teaching the class easily. But high school credit at that point in time in Japan did not transfer as college credit over here. They came over here, they're like business majors or something, and they just had to take any math class. A lot of the colleges now have testing where they can test out. But back then they didn't. He came up after I covered this topic in class one night, and he said, "Why are you covering both forms?" And I asked respectfully and everything. And I said, "Well, you need both depending upon what the problem looks like." And he proceeded to prove to me I was wrong. You could do everything with slope-intercept form. And I like formulas that work 100% of the time, instead of using like 2 or 3 different formulas. But again, I'll satisfy the requirement of actually showing you one at the very end. Okay, our first problem here. I'm given 1 2. Slope is 3. And it says find equation of the line, write the equation in the slope-intercept form, and then graph it. Well, this is our steps for finding equation of the line. We put these steps up before with very simple problems. They get a little bit tougher in this section. Step 1, we're going to find m. Well, in this first one, m's given. They tell us slope is 3. And step 2, plug in the given point for x and y, and m from step 1, into y equals mx plus b, and solve for b. Okay. So we've got y is equal to mx plus b. And they give us a point here. They give us 1, 2. So we can plug this in for x, plug the 1 in for x, and plug the 2 in for y. So 2 in for the y. M from step 1 we said was 3. And then that's times x, which is 1. And then plus b. And then we're going to solve for b. Well, 3 times 1 is 3. Take the 3 over to the left side. We got 2 minus 3. Which gives us b is equal to negative 1. Now step 3 says to write your answer down. Actually, let me write that out. I wrote it last time, but... So we're going to write our answer. Our answer is y is equal to mx plus b. Well, they just told us m is 3, so we got 3x, and b is negative 1. So that's our equation line. Now, we already said slope is 3, and I'll put that in fraction form. That's 3 over 1. And our y-intercept is negative 1. Well, remember, slope is changing y over changing x, so this goes up 3 and right 1. So to graph this, I'm going to go over my y-intercept and put a point right there. And from there, we're going to use our slope to get our second point. So we're going to go up 3 and right 1. So up 3 and right 1, and that's where we put our second point. And after we get our second point, we draw a line through them, and that'll be our graph. I apologize for all the coughing and sniffling and so forth. I'm still sick. Let's see. Find equation line containing a given point and with given slope. Write equation slope intercept form, graph the line. Okay, so we're given a point again. Negative 5, 1. And our slope is negative 3 halves. Well, go through our steps. Remember, step 1 is to find m. Well, m is given. It's equal to negative 3 halves. Step 2, plug in the given point for x and y. This is x and this is y. So plug 1 in for the y. M from step 1 we said was negative 3 halves. And x is negative 5. And then plus b. And then we want to solve for b. Well, negative 3 times negative 5 gives us positive 15 over 2 plus b. Take 15 halves to the left side, becomes a negative 15 halves. Now, we can use our mixed number rule on this. If you got a number out in front and then a fraction, if the negative is there, it has to be up on top with the 15. But what you do is you take 1 times 2, gives you 2, and then you add the negative 15. And that gives you negative 13 over 2. So again, what I did is I multiplied 1 times 2, gives you 2, and then you add it to the negative 15, which gives you negative 13. And the denominator stays as is. And step 3, write our answer down. Well, m was negative 3 halves, and b was negative 13 halves. So our answer is y is equal to negative 3 halves minus 13 halves. Okay. M is negative 3 halves. Changing y over changing x, it's negative 3, so we go down 3. Positive 2, so we go right 2. Now, our y-intercept is negative 13 halves. Well, if I put that in the calculator, that would give us negative 6.5 or negative 6.5, however you want to think of it. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So negative 6.5 would go put a point there. And we're going to use our slope to get our second point. Well, from that point, we're going to go down 3, sorry, right 2. So down 3, 1, 2, 3, and right 2. And that gives us our second point. So again, we put a point at our y-intercept, then we use the slope to get our second point. Down 3, right 2. And we draw a line through them. And that would be our graph. And let's look at our next one. Let's start a new page here. It says 401, undefined slope. If we went back to our two oddball cases, we had x equals a number, and that was a vertical line, and we had y is equal to a number, that was a horizontal line. When we had a vertical line, that's where we had undefined slope. So vertical line is undefined slope. And remember, that's what x is equal to a number. So x is equal to something. Well, this tells us that it passes through 4, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Passes through 4, 1. I know it's a vertical line because it says undefined slope, so it has to look like that. And that would actually be x is equal to 4 for our equation of the line. Right to slope-intercept form and graph it. Now it says write it in slope-intercept form. We can on this one, but those would be our answers. Okay, this one, we got -2, -3, and slope is 0. Okay, this is another one of our oddball cases. We said when the slope is 0, that's a horizontal line at a number, or at a point. Well, passes through the point -2, -3. So -2, -3 would be right there, and we said it's a horizontal line, so it looks like that. We know a horizontal line is y is equal to a number, and that's down at -3. So that'd be our answer. Again, it's very easy. Slope is equal to 0. You know it's a horizontal line. You know it's y equals a number. And it'll be y equals to the y part of this point. Same up here. Undefined means a vertical line, which means x equals a number. And it'll be x equals the x part of this point. Always. Let's look at number 5 here. Tells us it's a horizontal line that contains -4, -5. Find equation line. Okay. Horizontal line. I know what that is. That's a looks like that, and that's always y is equal to a number. Well, since it passes through this point, and our y part of this point is -5, our answer will be y is equal to -5. Next one tells us we got a vertical line at 5, -2. Vertical line, that's up and down, and that's always of the form x is equal to a number. And since it passes through this point, 5, -2, it'll be x equals the x part of this point. So x is equal to 5. And that's our answer. Now, next problem, I'm going to need some more space, so I'll start a new page. We're back to find the equation on the line where we're not talking about the oddball cases, at least for a couple of problems. So let me start a new page. Okay, so 410. And we got 0, 2. And same instructions, find equation line that contains the given points. Well, remember our steps. Find equation line. Step 1 is to find m. Well, this time m isn't given. But we do have a formula. Remember, m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're going to plug this in for x1, this in for y1, and x2 and y2. Again, this is my first point, so I'll label it as x1, y1. This is my second point, so I'll label that as x2, y2. Before I plug in those values, I'm going to replace my variables with parentheses. You'll find this will help on not messing up on the signs. y2 we said was 2, so put that in. y1 was 10, so we put that in. x2 is 0, so put that in. And x1 is 4, so put that in. Well, 2 minus 10 gives us negative 8, and 0 minus 4 gives us negative 4. And negative 8 divided by negative 4 gives us a positive 2. Now step 2 is still the same. That hasn't changed. Just step 1 has changed slightly here. Remember, step 2 said to plug in the given point for x and y, and m from step 1 and solve for b. Well, this time we're given 2 points. And which one do you pick? Well, whichever one you want. Whichever one looks easier to you. This 0, 2 looks a little bit easier, so I'll put that in for x, put that in for y. So y is 2. M from step 1 we said was 2, and x is 0. Plus b. And then we want to solve for b. Well, 2 times 0 is 0, so we end up with b is equal to 2. Now we can't forget step 3. Step 3 was to actually write down our answer. From step 1 we said m was 2, and from step 2 we said b was 2. So plug those in. And that would be our answer. Y is equal to 2x plus 2. Let's take a look at another one of those. Okay, I got negative 2, 8. And I got negative 4, 13. Well, go through our steps again. Step 1 is to find m. And we'll have to use our formula again. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This is our first point, so I'll label this. This will be x1, y1. This is our second point, so this will be x2, this will be y2. We'll go through and replace our variables with parentheses. y2 was 13. y1 is 8. x2 is negative 4. And x1 is negative 2. Well, up on top, 13 minus 8 gives us 5. And down below, we got negative 4 and then a minus parentheses minus. That becomes a plus. So this is negative 4 plus 2. Negative 4 plus 2 gives us negative 2. So that's m. Well, step 2. Plug in a given point for x and y and the slope from step 1. I don't suppose it matters which one I plug in. I'll plug in the first point. Looks a little easier. Plug that in for x, plug that in for y. So y is 8. M from step 1 we said was negative 5 halves. And x is negative 2 plus b. Now negative times a negative is positive, so those disappear. And those 2's are going to cancel. So we got just left with 5. Take the 5 to the left side, becomes a negative 5, and we get b is equal to 3. Step 3, write down our answer. Well, m we said from step 1 was 5 halves, or negative 5 halves, sorry. So we plug that in. B was 3. So our answer is y is equal to negative 5 halves x plus 3. Okay, let's look at number 9. Same instructions. Negative 1, 3, and 5, 3. Now it's important that you recognize the oddball cases, because one of the oddball cases will work on these 3 steps, but it just seemed weird. And the other one won't work at all. So it's best just to be able to spot them. How do you spot them? You look at if you're given 2 points, if they have the same value, same x values or same y values, that tells you something. See how this 2 points here? The y parts are the same, aren't they? Since the y parts are the same, our answer will be y equals whatever that number is. So y is equal to 3. Now our last problem, we got negative 2 and 5, and we got negative 2 and 7. Well, again, I noticed something here. The x parts are the same, aren't they? So our answer will be x equals whatever that number is, which is negative 2. So those are our answers for those two. And I don't think I have room here. Maybe I do. I promised you I'd talk about the point slope form. Again, I don't like it. I love the 3 steps I outlined above because it handles all the problems. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Steps change it slightly, how you find M or how you find B, but they're still the same 3 steps. Our point slope form says y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So if you're given a point like this one, you're given 1, 2, and you're given your slope is 3. Well, this would be our x1, this would be our y1, so they give you a point. So then you got y minus 2 is equal to 3 times x minus 1. And then you solve it down from there, solving it for y. And I granted it'll probably save you 1 step, maybe 2 steps if you're lucky. But again, it's another formula to memorize. Those 3 steps I've outlined, do them all. So that's what I'll stick with. And I believe that's the last problem. So point slope form of a line.